Well, Ulysses is a kind of vastly expanded narrative molecule. I mean, it is in a sense, it's a Griffith kind of book, in that we have two protagonists who only converge on each other rather late, Bloom and Stephen. It's like Griffith's parallel time cutting in that regard. But what they do, of course, is not extraordinary. They're passing through a day, which begins rather early for Stephen and ends very, very late for Bloom. And nothing happens on that day that is not happening all the time in Dublin to lots of people. Miss Marion Tweedy betrays her husband with her music manager and so forth. Stephen, who's still in the throes of being a university student, has another of his interminable philosophical discussions, and so forth and so forth. So that as a narrative, in the sense that something amazing is going to happen, you climb the highest mountain in the world or what have you, no, it is not. On the other hand, it clearly it obeys the narrative convention, because event B clearly appears to be causally connected to event A. Okay, now you begin to pull the narrative apart, I think, in film or in anything else, where those causal connections, A to B to C to D, become more problematical, where the sequence of events, the sequence of causality, becomes unclear or has to be inferred or constructed, or indeed where it falls apart, as it often does, for instance, in films that are widely seen and assumed to be perverse or cranked up narrative films. I'm thinking of Last Year in Marienbad, which didn't drive anybody crazy for its unintelligibility.
It drove me crazy.
Oh, well, good.
Irritated me.
Oh, well, irritation, of course, can be salubrious. I mean, it is the irritation of the grain of sand that produces the pearl in the oyster. You see, otherwise the mind would not produce for itself those pearls of comprehension or semi-comprehension or whatever it's doing for itself. The point was that it was possible for Last Year in Marienbad to be seen as something like a narrative, to be read in that way, and indeed for it to play for 16 weeks at the Carnegie Hall Cinema or what have you. Ordinary people, more or less, or at least, you know, the middle class who goes to that kind of movie in New York went to it. They didn't complain that it hurt their eyes, that they couldn't understand it.
Did you like it?
Oh, I think it's a masterwork, yeah. Certainly it's the best thing that Reyna ever had to do with. It probably isn't the best thing that Rob Grillet ever had to do with. I have my preferences, but it's the best film he ever had anything to do with, his honor. Not so hot, I think. But just to put it in a nutshell, my own feeling is that to denounce something because it contains narrative elements, or on the other hand, to treasure it because it appears to have eluded the siren song of the narrative, is a shuck. It's a
What's a shuck?
a cheap cop-out on actually looking at the work. Things may be narrative or not, and be interesting work or strong work or not, whether or not they're narrative. Citizen Kane is a case in point. It's a complex narrative. The whole point of the film, of course, is to reconstruct a narrative. It's about reconstructing what actually happened or what seems to have happened. I haven't seen anyone, even the most Maoist of the film avant-garde, really say that we should get rid of Citizen Kane and burn all prints because it appears to have a causally linked story to it.
Is that a very bourgeois thing to have? When you say that the most Maoist of the avant-garde, is it very bourgeois to have a story link?
Oh, I was using Maoist in an entirely figurative sense.
I see, okay.
I should have just perhaps said hard-nosed or something like that.